Hello and welcome. For today's video, we are going to be giving you an in-depth look at all the news and debuts from Geely Auto Group here at the 2021 Shanghai Auto Show. That includes the all-new Geely Xingyue L, as well as the all-new Zeekr all-electric 001 shooting brake. The Xingyue L is Geely's third car to be built on the CMA, or Compact Modular Architecture, that it co-developed with Volvo. The first being the Xingyue, and the second being the Preface, or Xingrui, which debuted at the Beijing Auto Show last year. The Xingyue L differentiates itself from the regular Xingyue, both in size and design. In the looks department, it features a traditional SUV roofline, which gives it more space for cargo and people. It overall has a much more high-end look, so it's no wonder that Geely refers to this as their most premium SUV to date. The grille and chrome surround on the front end of the Xingyue L are intended to give the impression of a charging bull, apt considering it's the year of the bull here in China. On the side, the Slingshot signature chrome trim that debuted on the Geely Preface last year, or Xingrui, is now extending the entire outline of the greenhouse here on the Xingyue L. Out back, the horizontal taillight extends seamlessly across the entire rear and will give this car a pretty lasting impression when it drives by. On the inside, the Xingyue L is clearly an evolution of the regular Xingyue, including the trapezoidal design theme and even passenger grab handle. The biggest difference, and definitely the highlight of the interior, is this massive 1-meter screen. Now, upon closer inspection, it's actually divided into two screens. You have the center screen here, which acts as a normal center screen you would have in any car, meaning it controls all of the car's various functions. Then you have a secondary screen here in front of the passenger, which allows them to control things like media and navigation. These are a direct reflection of market trends, with consumers demanding larger and larger screens. Thankfully, Geely seems to be paying attention and is prepared to give them exactly what they're asking for. The other third screen over here acts as an instrument cluster for the driver. The overall feeling of the car, well, we've come to have high expectations for Geely in terms of material quality and fit and finish, but this car takes it to a whole new level with plush materials and appointments that definitely have a more upmarket feel. In terms of powertrains, you can expect this car to have a 2-liter, the same one that you would find in many Volvo models. It should come in two flavors, a kind of low output or standard version, and then a high output. The standard version should have about 160 kilowatts and 325 newton meters of torque through a 7-speed DCT, whereas the high output version will have 175 kilowatts, 350 newton meters of torque, and use an 8-speed automatic. We haven't announced a price as of yet, but we are expecting this car to debut not too far in the future. Geely's unsatisfied with just bringing cars to this auto show and is also bringing flying vehicles as well. Geely has been vocal about its long-term investment in building a sustainable mobility ecosystem, which is why the group invested in German autonomous flying electric taxi startup Volocopter. Part of that investment includes a joint venture to bring the Volocopter and its urban air mobility concept to China. The company's latest model, the 2-passenger Volo City, is said to be on track for a commercial launch within the next 2 to 3 years. But wait, there's more. You didn't think they'd stop at the sky, did you? Geely believes that the future of mobility and autonomy will rely heavily on vehicle-to-vehicle and vehicle-to-everything connectivity. That kind of network will require a level of coverage that cannot be provided by terrestrial infrastructure alone. That's why Geely Technology Group's space arm, G-Space, is investing in the creation of a satellite constellation that will provide the coverage they need. Geely announced in February that they got the go-ahead to start building a factory here in China, and they plan on building and launching these satellites later this year. Geometry, Geely's first electric sub-brand, has chosen the Shanghai Auto Show to debut the Geometry A Pro, an upgraded version of the Geometry A sedan that features a more powerful 150 kilowatt and 310 newton-meter of torque electric motor. It also has an updated battery, giving it 183 watt-hours per kilogram and a 600-kilometer NEDC range. If you're interested in experiencing the Geometry brand, I've got good news for you, because Geometry has announced plans to start exporting the Geometry C compact SUV later this year, but no word on specific markets just yet. Last week, Geely Auto Group debuted the all-new, all-electric Zeekr sub-brand with the Zeekr 001. But before we talk about the car, let's talk about that name for a second. The Z in Zeekr is said to be derived from Generation Z, a younger, more technologically in-tune group of consumers. The Zeekr sub-brand is said to be positioned to appeal to their high demand for digital connectivity and widespread acceptance of electrification. The rest of the name, well, that comes from geek, a term that's become somewhat of a catch-all for anybody with a passion for technology. But enough about the brand and the name. Let's talk about the car itself, and oh, what a car it is. The Zeekr brand clearly swung for the fences when it came to the design on this car, and I honestly think that they nailed it. Directly inspired by the Lynk and Company Zero concept that debuted last year, it has a very sexy shooting brake body style. As a well-known wagon fetishist, I am more than delighted to learn that there is going to be an all-electric shooting brake, or wagon at least, on the market soon. Adding to the concept car looks are honest-to-God 22-inch wheels, which will also give it a little bit of extra performance cred. The Zeekr 001 will come in 3 different trim levels when it debuts, each with different battery packs and electric motors. First up is the super long-range version with the 100 kilowatt-hour battery pack and the single rear-mounted 200 kilowatt electric motor that will provide a 0 to 100 time of 6.9 seconds and an NEDC range of 712 kilometers. Following that are the dual motor versions, which buyers can choose to equip with either an 86 kilowatt-hour battery pack or 100 kilowatt-hour battery pack for 526 and 606 kilometers of range, respectively. Regardless of which battery pack you choose, the Zeekr 001 dual motor versions will do 0 to 100 in 3.8 seconds thanks to power numbers of 400 kilowatts and 700 newton meters of torque. You can tell you're dealing with something a little bit different from the second you opened the doors on the Zeekr 001 because, well, they open themselves. They also close themselves too. Inside, we have an interior befitting its price range of about $43,000 to $55,000. That means soft touch materials throughout, a 15.4-inch center screen, and an 8.8-inch LCD instrument cluster. There are some hints of the adventurous interiors you can find in Lynk and Co models like the 03 Plus, such as the funky pattern on the dash, but overall, it's a much more restrained and elegant appearance. With a length of 4.85 meters, it's no surprise to see that there's plenty of space here in the back seat of the Zeekr 001. There's no word on the specific capacity of the boot. However, we do know that when you lay down these rear seats, you get 2,144 liters of space. We're expecting to see the 001 hit showrooms later this year. Last but far from least is Polestar. The electric performance brand has announced recently that they are going to be adding 2 more versions of the Polestar 2. In addition to the dual motor version with 300 kilowatts of power and a 78 kilowatt hour battery pack, they will also be adding 2 single motor front mounted versions. The first with 170 kilowatts and a 78 kilowatt hour battery pack, and the second with 165 kilowatt front mounted electric motor and 64 kilowatt hour battery pack. Speaking of Lynk & Company, they chose to debut a couple of models today at the auto show. The first being this hatchback version of their O2, which comes in this amazing orange color that I'm told will be making it to production. They also announced an electrified version of their O5 Coupe SUV, offering the same 85 kilometers of all-electric range as the Lynk & Co O1 PHEV. The introduction of the plug-in hybrid O5 means that Lynk & Co now offers an electrified version of every model, from the O1 to the O6. Geely Group as a whole remains one of the leaders in offering electrified options here in the Chinese market, with 200,000 electrified vehicles sold in 2020. Thank you so much for joining us today on our tour of the Geely Group here at the 2021 Shanghai Auto Show. There's a lot going on with Geely these days, but if I had to pick just one thing that I find most exciting, it's definitely the Zeekr 001 shooting brake. Between that sexy styling and the promised performance, it ought to be pretty fun when we get our hands on one for a test drive later this year.